So you've brought like your style of melody, harmony, technique, what have you, to a lot of different genres. And in school it was jazz because
Sure.
school,
School.
and then you did classical guitar. Then you did a metal thing, and then a
Mm-hmm.
hard rock thing where you sang, and
Mm-hmm.
then like a trio fusion
Sure. Yeah.
thing. So, classical guitar being the biggest outlier,
Mm-hmm.
what made you want to technically, I guess, go to all these genres when but people mainly go to different genres and they learn country and then classical and whatever.
Right.
They kind of adopt
The
the
conventions of that.
licks
Yeah.
and the phrasing and
Mm-hmm.
the grow out your nails for the
Sure.
classical and the
Yeah.
but you seemingly just did your thing
Uh-huh.
in all those styles. What made you want to go to all those styles, if not get
I
the
mean, that's
essence of
just
them?
basic curiosity. Really, it's more than like that's the simplest answer. And then, um,
Because your solos in the metal thing sounded nothing like, to bring back, you mentioned liking Pantera. They sounded nothing like Dimebag.
sure.
I
Because
don't.
I'm me, right?
Sure.
I think that is the result. One of the elements of that is the fact that I didn't transcribe anybody. So like I don't have even the ability to actually sound like Dimebag or actually sound like Lenny Bro or actually because I don't have the knowledge in my head. I have none of that information in my head, which is what I've always wanted. I don't want that information in there. It clogs up space. And but it hasn't stopped me from writing savage metal tunes or writing cool stuff in anything that I've done. It hasn't hindered anything. I would argue that it's actually made things better because it's not tied down by previous things.
Fair enough. So
Um,
generally curiosity of just like the tones, maybe, or the
yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, it's taking the metal example. I mean, one day we'll finish that project. People are always clamoring for it. It's just so hard to like. The problem is with metal stuff is you write stuff that's impossible for drummers to play. That's really the problem we have.
Except for like
we
five guys.
can't find one human being that isn't like Mike Portnoy or one of these guys who like are known for this, or like the dude from Sugar or something who can actually play this music. It's just too difficult. So then we have the issue of do we release a record with like a sampled drum kit on it, which to me is like super lame, or
Yeah.
we just wait to find the right guy. TBD. We're still working on that.
After this, I can actually find a really, really good guy.
Great, cool. We'll see.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. So, it. I think it's more of the. I mean, one would say from a market perspective, like we're looking at the music industry, like it's a laissez-faire sort of like market economy thing, right? What I do is the absolute worst possible choice because it's, I mean, you have a consumer and you have a product, and music is the product, and the consumer is the listener, and if Jif peanut butter started putting other things in their peanut butter, most Americans would be like, "What's going on? I've been buying this for 25 years. I know what to expect. I love this product. I'm willing to pay anything for this product." As long as you keep giving it to me.
Mm.
And if Jif were to go like, yeah, we went to Sardinia and they're making things with like these different these like seeds and things, and so this is Jif now. You'd be like, no, it's not. I'm done buying Jif.
So should you
Sorry.
have stayed in? Is Jif jazz? for
Great
you?
question. That I'll never know that because I'll never stick with anything long enough to figure that out. Because I'm not So yeah, in a pure market based system, that would have been the right choice to have made.
Jazz.
I guess so. Yeah, I would have like kind of been the prodigy at Berkeley, and then done the record with like I would have hired X name and X name and X name to make a sick rhythm section trio, and I would have played three standards and 7 originals, and I would have gone this whole down this whole route, which eventually would have ended up with me being a 45-year-old man with no kids and traveling the world in order to pay my rent in New York. That would have been the end result of that because
Yeah.
I've seen it. I've literally seen it happen to plenty of people. And that would have been fine if that was the music that continually, brought me joy and I didn't feel curious outside of that. If I didn't feel like tempted to stray from the relationship. But man, like I just the guitar is an incredible instrument. Music is endless. I mean, so I could never be persuaded to make a choice creatively that was correct market wise, but didn't bring me any interest or excitement. And for sure, undoubtedly, it was the wrong economic choice, but the correct creative choice. And I think that's what I've realized is that very, very rarely, and it only happens like in truly, truly lucky purely random chaotic situations do you have someone who's able to meld those two things, where it's like, I just so happen to love pop and only pop, and I just so happen to be incredibly wealthy doing that. Great. This is my life. It's very, very rare. Very rare. It's usually like, I made this choice and I have this side project that plays with the baked potato or whatever, and that's like my real stuff. But yeah, I do this and that's usually how people
You hear that stuff, yeah.
operate, and that's fine.
It's curious though, because you're such a, again, more esoteric, unique player, that, to use your food analogy, I'd call you more of the M&Ms, where someday you want a peanut. Yeah. Someday I might want your classical album. Sure. Someday I might want your metal thing.
That's wonderful. I think you're, a probably different kind of, listener, which is great.
I think our generation though did grow up with
variety.
Really on the cusp of that Spotify thing, totally. Where everything is a niche.
Yeah, sure. We have genres of genres and multi-genres of genres. Yeah.
So I hope something can come of that, because I'd like more people to be able to listen to all those. Like, again, your classical approach is far different than. Again, the approach isn't that different, but the delivery system is so different.
Yeah. Oh man, that's I think that's I could never make art less important than success, I guess is the thing. Like, art is what drives me,
Sure.
And that isn't even to say like that what I mean by that is like art, capital R or capital A, drives me. Because that's different, right? That means like I'm gonna go make a record with like prepared kazoos and water balloons. And like that's I gotta find the vision. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about just making music that at that moment really really hits me, And as I said earlier, as I get older, that actually tends to be less weird music. It tends to be more in stuff.
Right.
I'm working with this great pop artist right now and doing some it's like straight up parts and sequencing and 8-bar solos, and like it's all like, but it's that's rocking me right now because I'm into the orchestration of it. I'm playing a lot of blues these days. Like I'm, but like my way, obviously. But like I'm still, I don't feel confined creatively, and I think that to me is worth more than anything else would have been had I chose to stick with one thing. And I think for the listener, in the long run, when all is said and done, my discography will be like a, what is this dude smell like really? Like, I mean, even I have those questions about my, I'll go to like my Bandcamp page, or I'll go wherever and I'll just check some stuff out like from a long time ago that I'm like fully grown out of, I was like, man, that's like a 20-song album with like Scandinavian like shipping news samples, and like like it's interesting stuff. I mean, it's interesting to me.
What's the name of that project?
That's Fables. Yeah, which is one of the weirder ones. I was really into electronic music at that phase. Really into production, really into like, that was like my thing. I was super into sound and texture and ambience and, and now I'm not.
So to the person who has taken a lot of, say like your average musician ends up playing a lot of different kinds of gigs.
Yep.
Some, they might play classical guitar at like a wedding, and then maybe they have a metal band, probably not. But then they have they play in a rock thing.
Yep.
And a lot of the genres that you've gone into. Say someone wasn't a prodigy.
Right.
And did end up having to transcribe solos for their finals and all those things like that, and did learn the licks, and is now super frustrated, going like, this is fine, but I literally am like divorced from what I'm doing because I'm doing the thing that's expected.
Yeah.
How would you recommend to free the mind?
I mean, I guess there are two answers to that. One is like brutal, and one is like less brutal. The brutal answer is, if you really feel like that, you should get a day job and stop making money playing music so that you can do what you want to do.
Sure.
No matter how long that takes. Work it. Einstein's Brothers Bagels, sweeping floors or whatever. Like if you truly are that dissatisfied. And you have something you want to do that you're unable to do or unable to fully investigate, then my feeling is that you should sacrifice anything to get that result. That's not conducive for life in the modern world, however, if you have a wife and family. I mean, I understand that. So the second, I guess convention in anything, in any genre, whether it's rock or classical or whatever, it has a lot to do with expectation, assumed expectation from the end user, the listener, right? So like, if I feel like I can't play anything other than pentatonic licks on Little Wing, That's because I must have the assumption that the listener doesn't want to hear anything else, right?
Yeah, they're not even open to anything else.
Which is never true, I found. I did a tour. There's a video online of me playing the song called this guy Till Broner. He's like a very, very, very nice guy. I love him. But his music is like very mainstream. He wears like a tuxedo on stage. He's going for the whole kind of Chris Bodie, like, ultra cool jazz guy. He's a beautiful player, but like that's his aesthetic. And he hired me on tour. God knows why, because he knew my music. And it's an odd choice, but I was happy to go because he's a great guy. And the tour was wonderful. A lot of great people. Met some friends there. A great tour manager. Like it's all cool people. And there was I played a lot of like very inside stuff, like some acoustic guitar part and some little octavey solo-y things, some Hendrixy, like all very palatable, very in. And there was a tune called Everybody Gotta Learn Sometime, right? And he was kind of using the Beck version that came out like 6 or 7 years ago, I think. And it's just just like a G minor, like Dorian vamp, right? And he's like, man, just do your thing. It's the end of the show. I've done my thing. I've talked. Said my thing. I've fully had time. I know you're a monster, so just go. And anyone in that situation, knowing the audience, we're talking about like 45-year-old Germans, like housewives here, right? And like no one's coming to this show expecting to hear cutting edge anything. That's actually why they're there to not hear it. They want to hear this is Saturday morning Today Show equivalent in music, right?
Sure.
And I didn't care about that at all. I was like, I'm getting a chance to roar. I'm gonna do it, And I can't even honestly say that I would do this today because I have more experience professionally now, and I might even make a different choice today. This is like 7 years ago. But then I just full on batshit, full on nuts. Like, and we're talking, I started really David Gilmour and had lots of long tones and huge amounts of space, just making people like feel who's this kid? He's on stage, he's like sweaty and like leaving 25 seconds of space in his solo. It's happening. I just kept building and building and building. It's like a 10-minute solo, to the end of which was me always breaking a string of some kind, literally making white noise into the amp and crashing my foot down in front of the Fender Twin to get the reverb tank to crash, just to make noise. Well, the drummer just freaked out. And every single time without fail, that solo produced a riot in the crowd. A literal, I'm like a frothing riot every single night. And every time we went to, we're talking like, man, we're in like Lubenz, Germany. And people still listen to David Hasselhoff in these towns, these are not, it's not Berlin.
Right.
These are not wacky places that are into left of center stuff. And it was a great lesson, man. I mean, it taught me that the assumption that people want to hear a certain kind of language is totally on you. That's you making that thought. If you're playing Little Wing, people are fully willing to give you. I mean, it's like if I go to a doctor and I know nothing about the medical profession, but I know that I feel bad, right? I'm giving my doctor the ability to tell me from his, position of height above me, authority-wise, what he thinks. And I'm willing to go with him in that. I don't say yeah, but fuck you, man. I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe I have a gallbladder infection, but fuck you. What do you know? Yeah, I wouldn't be there. I would be like, oh, that's not cool. How do I fix it? What can we do, doc? I trust you. You've been to school. You've done these things. You have the experience,
Right.
And audiences tend to do that with you if you come at them with that thing of saying, I'm here. You've come to see me, whether willingly or unwillingly. You're still here in front of me. And I'm going to now give you what I came to do for you. Because I'm the one in the position of authority. I'm the one here to give you this thing.
Right, I'm not delivering it ironically.
No.
I think this is awesome.
I think this is cool. And I'm telling you, man, when you communicate it in that fashion, audiences are 100% on board with you. 100%. Because, confidence is, this is the key, right? My in-laws are always telling me that, I'm hard to believe or not to believe because I say everything with confidence, so you never know if I'm, making something up or not. But it's true, because I'll hear something on the radio that it's like a stat, and I'll go, yeah, it's like 180 billion people in the world have, sickle cell anemia. And they'll be like, really? I have no idea. I mean, I think maybe it's true, but I'm also possibly not true. But you deliver it with, in that way, and it's like, okay.
Yeah.
And it's totally the same musically. Completely the same. You come at any timidness, man. I mean, audiences are hyenas. They smell blood, and they know exactly where to find it. And if you give them even 1 second of it, you're done. I mean, that's it. So you have to come at the stage with, this is my shit. This is what I do. This is how I do it. If you don't dig it, there's the door. And if the band doesn't dig it, I'm happy to leave. But, I'm coming here with my thing to do here. And I found that I'd say 85% of the time, you're always going to get, that one crowd that is always just
Right.
What's going on? Or like, some guy will come up to the gig and be like, yeah, I like the old guitar player a lot better. And you're like, cool, man, thanks.
Thank you for.
I'm the new guy, but so there's always like you're not talking about complete conversion here, but it's generally speaking,
Majority
people are there to for you to take them somewhere.
Right.
They're there for experience. If they wanted to hear the thing they would just turn on the radio. They would just and this is, I think I'm a little dubious about the way that the Spotify culture has sort of turned listeners into this kind of there's no like, they think the recorded work is the end, basically, right? Like as though like this is the end of the process. This when in my mind, and I think the minds of most human beings since the beginning of time we started bashing rocks together, is that the live performance is the point, and the recorded work is a way to get people to that thing, right? Now I kind of think about it in a kind of a dualistic sense, where I think they're just different things, period.
Right.
A recording has nothing to do with a live performance, except that you're playing the same tune. But other than that, these are two different worlds, right? But if someone has made the point in this day and age, which is like getting somebody to a gig is like pulling teeth now. So if you can get somebody to a gig, pay whatever your ticket cost is, park their car, valet their car, park in a huge stadium parking lot, go through all this like line queuing and like deal with all this bullshit and pay for $28 for a shitty Bud Light they're gonna spill half of anyway, and they've done all this stuff to see you, then you have an obligation, not like most people think, to give them exactly what they heard on an album. You have an obligation to give them more, to give them something else, to give them something more special, more unique, more incredible. And they're there for that, man. Like you have there's what's that book called? It came out like 10 years ago. Freakonomics. You read that book?
Yes.
There's something that they describe in a book called like the expertise clause or the expertise factor or something like that, right? Where like realtors or doctors are able to charge these ridiculous astronomical fees because they have more knowledge than you do. They just know more. Like you go to a doctor because you can't fix your own gallbladder.
Yeah.
And so someone's coming to you for a gig to like give me a transcendent experience. I'm here, man. I've paid. I'm here. I'm standing here. Take me. And so if you're like, I wonder if you feel trapped by any of that stuff, you're not helping them, and you're not giving them something that they don't. Like you got to give them shit they don't know about.
Yeah.
Like so they can go, man, I saw this fucking band at like wherever last night, and like, man, just like I don't even know what I saw. The amount of times I've been approached in my career by random people that aren't musicians saying like, man, I love what you do and I don't know why. That's the best compliment I could possibly get. Not like, oh, I love what you do, you sound like beep, or like whatever, But like, I love what you, I just loved what I saw. I have no idea how or why I do. Like, I'm confused and super stoked. That's the place I shoot for, because you want to give people newness, man. And even in conventions like Little Wing, or even if you're playing, there's no limit to what you can do on a chord progression.
Right.
Taking obviously into account things like if you're playing fucking Kelly Clarkson song in your top 40 wedding band, you're not going to start your solo with a flat 9. Like there are limits to these things, and all the things that I'm saying, I assume that you like have a taste, because there's
taste and different levels of levels of out.
Well, because we're all thinking about a professional here. Right? This hypothetical person is a professional, and a professional would know.
But you can push as a professional further than people push.
Absolutely, for sure, man. Because that's also a question of of chutzpah. I mean, that's what it is. Like if you have, that's what I also find that's what band people want in their band, right? You want a guy who is like when I playing with a drummer, or, my buddy whose spaces is Andy. He's like been a long collaborator of mine. He's one of the baddest dudes on the planet. The reason why he's a great drummer is not because he has incredible chops, because he's a phenomenally confident human being that brings that to the dumbest, most simplest thing in the world. Like what a hi-hat 2 and 4 groove played by Abel Boreal Jr. is very different than a hi-hat 2 and 4 groove played by John McNulty, who works at the music stop. I mean, it's so that even if musically it's exactly the same, even if you were to sync it up to the groove perfectly post-production, it would be a phenomenally different thing.
Right.
And that's because Abel Boreal Jr. is a bad dude who doesn't come at things with like, I wonder if he's like, I'm gonna break you with this. You're gonna dance so hard you're gonna break.
Right.
And I think there's it's hard to be, and that's why I do a lot of different stuff that's why I don't just like play live gigs for money. Like that's not my only source of income, because if it were, but by that I mean like locally, it's a hard gig to get into where you're playing a lot of local gigs and that's like your sole means of making cash, because you do kind of you can fall into these loops, these kind of feedback loops really easily, where you're like, you're playing so many tunes all the time, you're never thinking about craft, you're just thinking about execution a lot, and that's hard,
Yeah.
And I know that, and that's why, like, I never did GB stuff in college. I never did, like, any of these. A lot of guys can do this, and a lot of guys, also, for the record, a lot of guys have no problem with this. This is more of, some guys can do this and knock it out of the park. I just tend to be a little more introspective. I need more time with myself to think about whether it's techniques or ideas or theories or what have you,
Right. The same way, like, a high-paid pop gig sounds awesome until you see what whoever the musician's playing, and you're like, oh, I would be so bored out of my face.
Yeah, I mean,
For 40 straight days, especially.
Totally. And it's all, yeah, I don't even know how, I would have said that too in the past, but I don't know how I feel about this anymore, because I think that I'm always looking for a new way to be challenged, right? And
also you made none of the music.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, you just like hired and you're done. Yeah, I mean, then you're a contractor. You're no different than somebody calling a bulldozer company to clean gravel out so they can build an apartment complex or something. I mean, that's different. But again, a lot of guys, it comes so much of it comes down to musical temperament, and like what you're looking for, And I think I've realized it has a lot to do with that art commerce balance. And some guys just don't. They're just more on the commerce side. Cool, great, no judgment, wonderful. Some guys are more on the art side.
Yeah.
And if you're more on the art side, you tend to have a larger issue with some of these commerce realities. And so I think, in that case, diversification is the key. Find other things to do, teach more, make more records on your own, try to promote, like.
I was surprised to find that there's a good amount of commerce, even in the teaching world, of like, I will learn this style because it is popular now and students come to me for it. And
sure.
You're like, oh, geez, that sounds boring as shit.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm not the right person to talk to about that kind of stuff, because I've always, I mean, the issue is like I've just now always only ever done whatever the fuck I wanted to do, and it's worked. I mean, like I'm eternally grateful to the universe that it's worked, as it has. But also, I could maybe be in a different place if I'd done making different choices. But I would rather not do that. I'd rather just do what feels right, Right. And I think if you're this hypothetical guy who's playing a lot of gigs and like feels burnt out by it, if you have an idea, feeling burnt out but not having nothing to replace it with is one thing. It's like, God, I feel burnt out, but I have no idea what I would do other than this. Different. If you're burnt out and you say like, man, I've got a project in mind that I must get off the ground, and if I don't, I'm just going to be, my soul is going to get vacuumed out of my nose or whatever. Then you got to do it.
You have to do it. Right?
You got to do it. You have to, because I'm always, who told me this one? Like one of my first teachers, it was like Kambali or one of those guys, who once told me like, hey man, look, worms are gonna eat your body one day. You will be worm food. We're all gonna be worm food. We guarantee. It's not for sure happening, right? And so it's absurd to not make a choice that you to not do something that is what you want. It's just it's heinous. It's almost like a crime. And so if you know what it is, you have to do it at all costs, I think. And I'm definitely far less practical than a lot of guys that would say on that. My wife and I always have this discussion, because she's super practical and I love her for that. And I'm just not. I'm more of a romantic. Like what are you gonna do at the end of the day? Like what are you gonna when all is said and done, you're like breathing your last breath. You don't want to be like, God, why did I not do that thing?
Yeah.
It's why, and you don't want to have those feelings, man. That's I can think of no.
But your wife would go down going, I'm so glad I did the practical thing.
Because we're different people.
Because we're very
that's
different
the
people.
key.
Yeah.
That's the key. And so but I think if you are the kind of my wife also doesn't have the inner, like those kind of inner turmoil questions of like creative. She doesn't have creative inner turmoil,
right?
Because she, just did totally different person.
Yeah, that must be fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it is truly envying. So it's just like, well, you just get up and like go to work and you're happy and like, how? It's crazy. So if you have those, you have to answer that. It's a siren. You gotta get at it.
Yeah.